The sirens were already fading when the body was pulled from the drainage ditch just beyond the tree line. Red and blue lights flickered against wet leaves, casting broken shadows across the mud. The man wore civilian clothes, but his boots told a different story: military issue. Worn hard, laced tight. No wallet. No phone. Just a faint tattoo on his forearm, partially burned away. The remnants of a unit crest that wasn't meant to be seen outside classified files. This wasn't a random death. Everyone on the scene knew it. The call had come in just after midnight, routed quietly through military police before being handed off to a joint task unit that officially did not exist. The location was wrong. The victim was wrong. And the silence afterward was louder than any gunshot. By sunrise, the rumors had already started. They moved the way rumors always do on bases like this, low, careful, passed between men who knew better than to ask questions out loud. Something about drugs. Something about money. Something about Green Berets who had crossed a line and discovered there was no way back. The victim's name was Staff Sergeant Daniel Mercer. Officially, he was on leave. Unofficially, he had been missing for 3 days. His unit reported him absent without alarm, paperwork delayed, time quietly erased. That alone raised red flags. Green Berets didn't just disappear. Detective Aaron Cole stood near the ditch, hands in his coat pockets, eyes locked on the body bag as it was zipped shut. Cole had spent 15 years chasing organized crime cartels, smugglers, traffickers. But this was different. The discipline, the precision, the way everything about this scene felt intentionally minimized. "They're already trying to bury it," his partner, Lena Voss, said under her breath. Cole didn't respond. He was watching the perimeter, the men in uniform standing just far enough back to claim distance close enough to control the narrative. He had seen this before. Institutions didn't panic when something went wrong. They closed ranks. Mercer's autopsy would later show blunt force trauma, signs of restraint, and cocaine residue beneath his fingernails. Not enough to claim overdose, just enough to suggest involvement. White powder where it never should have been. As Cole dug into Mercer's past, the story grew darker. Mercer had joined Special Forces young, excelled fast, and built a reputation as reliable, loyal, and quiet. Too quiet, some said. He had deployed multiple times, returning with fewer words each time. In the last year, his bank records showed unexplained deposits. Small at first, then larger. Cash, moved carefully. When Cole asked around, doors closed. One warrant request was denied without explanation. A second disappeared entirely. The message was clear. Tread lightly. That was when the name surfaced. Not in a file. Not in a report. In a whisper. There was a place, they said. Not a prison on paper. Not a black site anyone could officially acknowledge. Just a facility repurposed, renamed, and forgotten. A place built during a different era, when silence mattered more than reform. Crossing into it meant being erased. Cole found the reference buried in an old logistics memo, an off-book transfer destination marked only by a code. No address, no oversight committee, no release records. Men sent there didn't come back. At least, not the same. The reason, Cole learned, was simple. The operation hadn't started as criminal. It never did. It began as containment. Soldiers caught moving drugs during overseas deployments. Weapons exchanged for cocaine. Money flowing back through channels no one wanted to audit. The goal wasn't prosecution. It was silence. Those deemed too risky were severed from their units, officially reassigned. Quietly transported. Families were told stories. Records were adjusted. Time moved on. Life inside the facility followed strict routine. Stone walls. Constant light. No clocks. Meals without conversation. Obedience enforced through repetition, not brutality. Days blurred together. Names became numbers. Identity dissolved slowly, methodically. The place survived by staying unnamed. Mercer, it seemed, had been part of the system and then tried to leave it. Phone records showed encrypted calls to a civilian journalist. Draft emails recovered from a wiped laptop referenced proof, distribution routes, and command approval. He hadn't just been skimming money. He had been preparing to talk. That made him dangerous. Cole and Voss finally got clearance to visit the transfer site listed in the memo. The location sat miles from any base, hidden behind a nondescript industrial facade. No signs, no markings, just a gate, and a man who checked their credentials 3 times before letting them through. Inside, the air smelled of disinfectant and old concrete. They walked past empty corridors, doors without labels, surveillance cameras that tracked every step. The officer escorting them spoke only when necessary, his tone flat, rehearsed. "This facility was decommissioned," he said. "There's nothing here." They reached the lowest level, where a single reinforced door stood at the end of the hall. Locked, sealed, untouched, according to the log. Cole noticed the scuff marks on the floor. Recent ones. When they ordered the door opened, the escort hesitated. For just a moment. That was enough. The lock disengaged with a heavy click, and the door swung inward. Inside, the room was bare except for a metal chair bolted to the floor. Straps hung loose. On the wall, carved deep into the concrete, were dozens of marks, tally lines, names scratched out, dates ending abruptly. One name stood untouched. Mercer. And beneath it, written in careful, deliberate letters, was a sentence that changed everything. "Loyalty ends when the truth leaves." Cole felt the weight of it settle in his chest. Because now he understood. Mercer hadn't been killed to keep him quiet. He'd been killed to remind everyone else what happens when an oath is broken. The room was sealed again within minutes. Officially, it never existed. The escort insisted the markings were old, the chair part of a temporary holding area, the name on the wall, nothing more than vandalism. But Cole and Voss knew better. Too many details lined up. Too many coincidences stacked neatly on top of each other. And then, just like that, the pressure started. Cole's supervisor called him in before noon. The tone was calm, almost sympathetic. The message was anything but. "You're stepping outside your lane," the supervisor said. "This case is sensitive, national security sensitive." "What about murder?" Cole asked. "What about a soldier found dumped like trash?" The supervisor didn't answer directly. He never did. He simply reminded Cole how close he was to retirement, how unpredictable oversight committees could be, how quickly careers unraveled when people misunderstood classified work. It was a warning. Voss received hers the same day. Her access credentials were quietly downgraded, her emails delayed, her calls unanswered. The investigation was being starved, not shut down, slowly suffocated. Meanwhile, evidence began to disappear. Mercer's draft emails vanished from the server backup. The journalist he'd contacted suddenly stopped returning calls. A key financial analyst reassigned overseas without notice. Every thread Cole pulled frayed in his hands, until one didn't. A junior logistics officer, barely 2 years in service, requested a private meeting. He was pale, shaking, and kept glancing at the door. "I drove the transport," he said. "Not the one that killed him, the one before." He explained that Mercer had been transferred weeks earlier under sealed orders. Destination code only. No names. No signatures. Just a directive that carried weight no one questioned. Mercer had been taken to the facility. Alive. "He wasn't supposed to leave," the officer said. "None of them were." Cole pressed for more, but the officer shut down. Fear replaced guilt. He stood abruptly, muttered something about saying too much, and left. 2 days later, His car was found abandoned on a rural highway. Keys inside. No signs of struggle. Missing. The message was no longer subtle. Cole and Voss worked off book now, sharing information face to face, keeping notes on paper. They reconstructed the network piece by piece. Former Special Forces operators, civilian contractors, logistics officers, and legal advisors who specialized in burying problems without trials. The drugs moved quietly, cocaine routed through overseas deployments, hidden in supply chains no civilian authority ever inspected. Profits flowed back through shell companies. The facility existed as a final solution, not punishment. Containment. Those who stayed loyal were rewarded. Those who hesitated were removed. Those who tried to leave were erased. Mercer had done all three. The breakthrough came when Voss traced an old procurement contract to a private security firm dissolved years ago. Its assets, however, had been transferred. The current owner was a retired colonel, decorated, respected, untouchable. They brought him in anyway. He didn't deny the program. He defended it. "You think the world is clean?" he asked, leaning back in his chair. "You think wars don't rot the people who fight them? We did what was necessary to keep the damage contained." "And Mercer?" Cole asked. The colonel's eyes hardened. Mercer forgot who he belonged to. That was enough. The arrests happened quietly. No press conference, no spectacle. A handful of men detained under sealed indictments. Others resigned overnight. A few vanished into medical retirement. The facility was officially decommissioned again, this time permanently on paper. Mercer's death, Bossy, as ruled a homicide. No suspects named. The case closed to the public with a vague statement about criminal elements operating independently. Cole knew the truth would never fully surface. Some crimes are too embedded to expose without collapsing the structure around them. Weeks later, Cole visited Mercer's sister. He handed her a folded flag and an apology that felt painfully insufficient. She listened, nodded, and asked only one question. Did he try to do the right thing? Cole answered honestly, yes. That night, Cole sat alone in his apartment, staring at the city lights. His phone buzzed once. A blocked number. One message. Containment works. He deleted it immediately, but the words lingered. The system hadn't been dismantled. It had adapted. Somewhere, another unnamed place still existed. Another room without clocks. Another chair bolted to the floor. Another soldier learning that loyalty, once broken, is never forgiven. They said the Green Beret stood for honor, discipline, and sacrifice. But beneath the uniform, beneath the oath, there was something darker, an understanding shared only in silence. That some wars don't end. Some prisons aren't marked on maps. And some men are never allowed to come home. If this story stayed with you, you're not ready for the next one. Subscribe and like for more.